Hi there, Aaron Hayes, Mr. Hayes' World of Math. I'm here to help you get ready for the AP Stats exam. We're going through CED 6, which is the proportions, confidence intervals, and significance test. I've got all the paperwork here if you want to review the multiple choice, and all of the more recent FRQs are down below. I also have, it's underneath the 3-week review course. You can find everything there, links to videos, all of that other good stuff. So let me know if that's helpful, and let's dive into this. First one here is from 2022. Question number 4. A survey conducted by National Research Center asked a random sample of 920 teenagers in the US how often they use a video streaming service. For the sample, 59% said yes, they use a streaming service every day. I'm a little dubious of that, but that's a whole different thing. You're not here for commentary, you're here for help. So notice up here, I've already marked that n is equal to 920. I've marked that p hat is 59 because this is p hat because it's coming from the sample. And then we are asked to construct and interpret a 95% confidence interval for the proportion of all teenagers in the US who would respond that they use a video streaming service. I've underlined that part there because that's what we're asked to say in this. So that's going to be the context that we need to include. So for the first part, we're going to go through and I do the choose, check, calculate, conclude 4C statement made popular by StatsMedic, now mathematic.com. We are doing a one sample Z interval for P. According to the rubric, you either need to name it or you need to show it by formula. And if you do both, then that way you kind of have a double check against it. We also need to list off that it's a 95% confidence interval. And then we also need to say, we need to indicate what P is. And P is going to be the true proportion of US teens who stream every day. Obviously, stop this as you need to, so you can copy stuff down if you want to. Hopefully, you've already done the problem and you're just double checking it. You just want to hear stuff going through. Now, there are 3 things you always need to check for a confidence interval. And these are also the same 3 things that you would have to check for if we were doing a significance test for this. We need to check to see if it's random. And so they say it's a random sample of 920 teens. We need to check that it's independent. And that just means, remember, we don't want to have to worry about putting the people we select back into the pools. So we can select people without replacement. 920 is less than 1/10 or 10% of all US teens. And then is it normal? And for this one, remember, you're going to do the n times p. You need at least 10 successes and 10 failures. And we have both of those. We have 542 successes in theory and 377 failures. If you do all of that, then you can say it's normal regardless of what the population looks like. For your calculations, it's recommended that you write down just the general formula. This is actually on the AP formula sheet. So if you're not sure about something, if you forget something, it's there, you can look at it. So we're labeling this out, and we'll get to this one in a second. All right, take that back, that's a different problem. So we want 95% confidence interval, so you need to look that up. Now remember, if you're looking this up off of table A, you need to do 97, this mark right here. Okay, that's going to be 97.5% of the data because we have this 2.5% down here. 95% is in the middle, 2.5 on each end. Hopefully you remember that the z-score is 1.96. We can use the z-score because we're doing proportions. The other thing you can do is this. You can look up 2.5%, a negative 2.5% down on the bottom, and then you can just use the version of that. Anyway, so here's our regular formula here. So here's the specific formula for what we're doing here, p hat plus or minus z star, and then there's the standard deviation over for that. So again, point estimate, margin of error, and they actually also tell you that on your formula sheet as well. Bottom of the first page is kind of impressive. So here it is all filled out, all the parts. So I've got 59, I've got one minus 59, so that's 0.41. So show a little bit of your work through here, and then we come up with our confidence interval there from somewhere between a little bit higher than 55% all the way up to about 62%. And then they're going to ask you to conclude it. And here's the last part. We are 95% confident that the interval from 0.5581 or 0.558 to 0.622 captures the true proportion of US teens who stream daily. And that would get you most of the points. There is part B, however. I believe this gets you a 3 if you get up to this point. The last point over here asks you, based on this confidence interval, part 1, do the sample provide convincing statistical evidence that the proportion of all teenagers who stream daily is not 0.5. Now remember, confidence intervals you can almost basically use as a test so long as you do this part down here, unless they specifically ask you for a test. Yeah, it does provide convincing evidence because the proportion of teen streaming videos daily is not 5%, because that 0.5 is not in our confidence interval. It's not in your confidence interval. We're pretty sure it falls out into that 2.5%. So again, if you have your normal curve, this bottom would be 0.558. So that means that this would be here. That would fall into an alpha value that we have. Anyway, that's the whole question to get a 4. I'm going to put some more stuff over here. We're going to put the rest of CED 6, which is the confidence intervals and stats for proportions here. And then I'll put the one, I'll put up the previous one from Unit 5 up over there. Let me know if there's anything else I can help you with down in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe, and you're probably not even listening anymore, so I'm going to stop. Catch you later.